Your colleague interrupts your presentation. That won't work. We tried something similar last year, and it failed spectacularly. The room goes quiet. They're watching to see if you'll get defensive, if you'll argue, if you'll lose your composure. That's the amateur move. Here's what Marcus Aurelius would do. 6 strategic phrases that instantly shift the power dynamic in your favor. Not through volume or aggression, but through the kind of unshakable executive presence that controlled the Roman Empire. Here's the secret bonus. These same 6 phrases work in your personal relationships, your spouse's criticism, your teenager's defiance. Same psychology, same results. Volume isn't power. Control is. The psychology behind strategic language. The Stoics called it the discipline of desire. Control your immediate reaction to speak. Modern neuroscience proves they were right. The person who controls the pause controls the conversation. Watch what happens in that meeting room. Your colleague just attacked your proposal. Your brain floods with cortisol. Fight or flight kicks in. You want to defend, explain, justify. That's exactly what they expect. Instead, you pause. 3 seconds of strategic silence. Now you're operating from the prefrontal cortex, not the amygdala. That's executive presence. Here's what most professionals miss. They think power comes from having the best argument, the loudest voice, the most data. Wrong. Power comes from controlling the frame of the conversation itself. Marcus Aurelius understood this perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He didn't argue with senators who challenged him. He redirected the conversation toward solutions. The trap most executives fall into is filling silence with explanation. Someone questions your judgment, you immediately launch into a detailed defense of your reasoning. You just lost control of the room. Calm authority triggers respect in the human brain. When you speak with measured confidence, mirror neurons fire in your listeners. They unconsciously mirror your composure. That's why the emperor's quiet commands carried more weight than a general shouting. 3 meeting dynamics shift when you master strategic language. First, decision speed increases. No more endless circular discussions. Second, accountability becomes crystal clear. No more vague commitments that disappear after the meeting. Third, your respect level jumps immediately. People start looking to you for direction. The neuroscience is simple. When you respond instead of react, you activate what researchers call cognitive control networks. Your voice drops slightly. Your pace slows. Your word choice becomes more precise. The room unconsciously recognizes leadership. Here's the pattern. Observe the situation without emotional reaction. Pause to engage your strategic thinking. Respond with one of 6 specific phrases that redirect the conversation toward your objective. That's the discipline of assent applied to modern meetings. Same principle when your teenager rolls their eyes at your curfew. Same principle when your spouse criticizes your weekend plans. Strategic language transcends context because it addresses fundamental human psychology. Quick question. What's the biggest pressure situation you face in meetings? Someone who derails the agenda? A boss who questions every decision? A colleague who never takes responsibility? Drop a comment. I'll show you exactly which phrase works best. 6 power phrases for meeting control. Here are your 6 strategic phrases. Each one follows the Stoic framework. Observe, pause, redirect. Phrase 1. Help me understand your concern. Your boss just questioned your quarterly projections in front of the entire leadership team. Every instinct screams, defend your numbers. Cite your sources. Prove you're right. That's the amateur move. Instead, you pause. Help me understand your concern. Watch what happens. The aggression immediately shifts to collaboration. Your boss has to explain their specific worry, not make vague attacks. You're not fighting anymore. You're facilitating. That's executive presence. The psychology is brilliant. You've acknowledged their position without agreeing with it. You've created space for them to explain themselves. Most importantly, you've taken control of the conversation's direction. Same principle when your colleague interrupts your presentation. That approach never works. Don't defend, don't explain. Help me understand your concern. Now they have to provide specifics instead of throwing grenades. Phrase 2. Let's table that for now. The meeting is supposed to cover budget approval. Instead, someone launches into a 20-minute story about last year's vendor problems. The agenda derails. Everyone checks their phones. Here's your move. Let's table that for now. You're not dismissing their concern. You're not being rude. You're reclaiming control of the meeting's focus without confrontation. The room recognizes leadership. Marcus Aurelius faced the same challenge with Roman senators. They loved their own voices. He didn't argue. He redirected. The emperor's time was valuable. So is yours. The key is your tone. Calm, measured, final. Not, maybe we should table that. Not, I think we should focus on. Definitive leadership. Let's table that for now. Phrase 3. What's our next concrete step? Decision paralysis. You've been discussing the same problem for 30 minutes. Everyone has opinions. Nobody commits to action. The meeting will end with vague promises and zero follow-through. Time for strategic intervention. What's our next concrete step? Notice the word choice. Not, what should we do? That invites more discussion. Not, what do you think? That opens another opinion session. What's our next concrete step? Forces specificity. Forces action. Forces someone to take ownership. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Seneca wrote about the futility of endless talk without action. The wise person observes, decides, acts. Your phrase cuts through the discussion fog, demands concrete commitment. Your colleague starts hedging. Well, I suppose we could maybe look into. Stop them right there. What's our next concrete step? Keep repeating until someone commits to something specific with a deadline. Phrase 4. Who specifically owns this deliverable? The classic responsibility dodge. We need to improve customer satisfaction. Everyone nods. The meeting ends. Nothing happens because nobody owns the outcome. Here's your redirect. Who specifically owns this deliverable? The word specifically prevents vague team assignments. The word owns creates personal accountability. The word deliverable demands a concrete outcome, not just effort. Watch the room dynamics shift. People suddenly remember other priorities. That's fine. Better to have one person committed than 5 people pretending to care. This phrase separates executives from employees. Employees discuss problems. Executives assign ownership. You just demonstrated which category you belong in. Phrase 5. We have 5 minutes left. Time pressure creates decision clarity. When people know the meeting is ending, they stop posturing. Start committing. Strategic time management isn't about efficiency. It's about psychology. Your phrase works even if you have 15 minutes left. We have 5 minutes left. Suddenly, everyone gets focused. The rambling stops. The real priorities surface. The Stoics called this awareness of limited time. It forces better choices. Your artificial deadline creates the same psychological pressure as a real one. Use this phrase to force closure on any discussion. Budget decisions, project timelines, vendor selection, Time scarcity eliminates the luxury of endless debate. Phrase 6. Confirm your understanding, please. The meeting ends with confident handshakes and vague commitments. Next week, nothing happens. I thought you were handling that. I understood we were waiting for approval. Classic miscommunication. Your insurance policy. Confirm your understanding, please. Not, do you understand? That sounds condescending. Not, are we clear? That invites a simple yes. Confirm your understanding, please. Forces them to repeat back their specific commitment in their own words. This phrase prevents the follow-up email confusion. It eliminates the next meeting, where everyone claims they understood something different. It creates accountability before people leave the room. The psychology is simple. When someone speaks their commitment out loud in front of witnesses, they're significantly more likely to follow through. You've just increased your project success rate by 40%. Here's the power move. Use all 6 phrases in sequence during challenging meetings. Observe the dynamic shift. You're not the person reacting to problems anymore. You're the person solving them. That's executive presence through ancient wisdom. Secret chapter, personal life applications. Same 6 phrases work outside the boardroom. Your spouse criticizes your weekend plans. Help me understand your concern. Watch the defensiveness dissolve into actual conversation. Your teenager rolls their eyes at curfew. What's our next concrete step? Forces them to propose solutions instead of just complaining. Friend keeps canceling dinner plans last minute. Confirm your understanding, please. Creates accountability in personal relationships the same way it does in professional ones. The psychology doesn't change. Strategic silence works at the kitchen table exactly like it works in the conference room. People respond to calm authority, whether they're your colleague or your family member. Here's what most people miss. Executive presence starts with personal discipline. If you can't control the conversation with your teenager, you can't control it with your difficult boss either. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius practiced these principles with his children, his wife, his friends. Leadership isn't a professional skill you turn on at work. It's a way of being that transcends context. Quick example. Your spouse says, "You never help with household tasks." Amateur response. Defend yourself. List everything you did this week. Executive response. Help me understand your concern. Now you're solving the problem instead of arguing about it. Strategic language creates space for better outcomes everywhere. That's why these phrases feel natural once you start using them. They address fundamental human psychology, not just workplace dynamics. And now it's your call to apply what you're learned. Strategic language creates executive presence through Stoic principles of observation and control. You're not reacting to problems anymore. You're redirecting conversations towards solutions. Here's your move. Pick one phrase to practice in your next meeting this week. Start with the situation that challenges you most. Difficult boss? Use, "Help me understand your concern." Rambling colleague? Let's table that for now. If you're serious about advancing with ancient wisdom that actually works, subscribe to Stoic Exec. Comment which phrase you're using first. I read everyone, and I'll show you exactly which works best. Remember, executive by day, Stoic always.